So we're in a new month, new theme. We came from mindfulness last month, and now we're in the month of surrender. Breathe, breathe. Yes, I said the S word. Surrender, surrender. Guess what? There may be resistance. It's okay, just let it come up. You know, surrender is not one of those things that we in the Western culture take too kindly to. We don't like to entertain the idea of surrender. It's akin to giving up or giving in or raising the white flag, you know. It's about being in despair and just tossing in the towel. And those are the kinds of things that come to our mind when we think of the word surrender. So we're not really fond of it. It's not something we like to discuss, but that's not the kind of surrender we're talking about. So that's not the kind of surrender we're going to be talking about this month. The kind of surrender that we want to become acquainted with this month is the type of surrender to something greater than ourselves. Surrendering to something greater than anything that we've ever known about ourselves or about ourselves to be before. And this is big work, and this is deep work. And coming on the heels of mindfulness, and now moving into surrender, this is a very deep practice that we're entering into. This is the real transformative sort of practice of an awakened people, and that is who we are, yes? Yes, we are an awakened people. So there was this book I was reading in preparation, actually, for these talks called The 7 Living Words, and this is by Mark Anthony Lord. And so it's about going into this process of surrender. He says this, he says, having the foundation of our personality structure ripped out and restructured is not for the faint of heart. In fact, most people choose not to do it and participate in what I call spirituality light. They learn the lingo, they attend all the workshops and seminars, possibly even belong to a vibrant spiritual community, but they continue to act out of their false beliefs. And so today, what I want you all to know is that we're going to go deeper than that. We're going to go beyond that this month. We are the awakened people, and we are going to go beyond that, and we're going to get into that idea of surrendering to our own greater selves. We have to let go of who we think we are, and we have to let go of what we think we have in order for our hands to be free to accept something greater, yes? So, what are we surrendering? What are we surrendering? The idea of being spirit in form means to surrender our little selves. Surrender that false idea of who we are. Surrender the smallness that we think we are. Surrender that human idea of lack and limitation. To give way to the divine within us and allow the divinity to run our lives. We are surrendering our fears, we're surrendering our false ideas, and we're surrendering our false beliefs. That's what we're surrendering. This is really the idea of the Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, isn't it? He went to the garden to meditate and pray, and mostly to surrender to spirit. It was mostly to surrender. And that's what we're called to do. We're called to surrender our littleness, our smallness to the greater thing, perhaps that greater thing that we don't even know. We don't know what it is. But we are called to surrender the greater yet to be. And it's a scary place, you know, particularly for our ego, who doesn't like to go anywhere it doesn't know where it's going. You know, and it's not so much about getting rid of the ego as it is inviting the ego along for the ride. Because we are here to live the whole life of God. We are here to live the expanded life of spirit in form. And so we have to surrender the littleness. We have to surrender that limited idea of who we are. We're small and we're isolated from each other and we're afraid and we're alone and we're in lack and all of those other false ideas and false judgments. We have to let go of them. So We go into the garden, we go into the dark night of the soul, and we argue with spirit, don't we? I mean, don't we really? I do. I don't know about you. I do. Right? Take this cup from me. I don't want it. I'll stay small. It's okay, right? Don't we do this? I'll stay small. I don't care. I'm good. I'm good, God, really. I'll just, everything's fine. I'll just take my little piece. And we argue, and we don't want to take the cup. But we have to surrender that also. We have to surrender the argument. We have to surrender saying no. And we cry, and we reach the depths. And in that stillness, we hear the voice of Spirit. We hear our own inner voice, our own higher self, whispering to us of what is true and who we are. And we begin to understand that Spirit has a greater idea for our life. So in this book, The 7 Living Words, he talks about the 7 words that Jesus said, depending on which Gospels you're reading, and how we can use that as a guide to transform our lives. He talks about surrendering what is no longer useful for us, what no longer serves us, our lower thoughts, our false beliefs, our fears. And he says this, he says, the crucifixion itself symbolizes the process of crossing out, eliminating that which is no longer needful for our continuing unfoldment. What has fulfilled its purpose in us must be either lifted to a higher level of expression in consciousness or let go of completely. Jesus' crucifixion story illustrates both of these points. And that makes sense? Jesus was put to death on the cross. Well, not really a cross. I mean, I think in the Bible they use the Greek word stavros, which means stake or pole. It was sort of like a telephone pole. And it was changed somewhere along the way. A cross was substituted in because of the symbolism of the cross. You know, the cross in the Easter story is way more symbolic, and it's older. It is older imagery than the story of Jesus itself. It is an archetypal symbol of the emergence of spirit through the physical plane. That's why you have a vertical line, which is spirit emerging and crashing through the horizontal plane of the horizon or the physical world. It represents spirit's intrusion into the physical world. It is a universal symbol. It's ancient, and it represents wholeness. It represents wholeness within the tension of duality. If you think about it, you have spirit and form, and that's what we are, spirit and form. And that's what the cross symbolizes. The intrusion of spirit crashing through the plane of physical reality, physical world. You know, and in ancient symbolism, the cross, like that one in the circle, was equal in all directions, and it represented the crossing through of the four, intersecting the four archetypal signs of earth, air, fire, and water. So it's telling of our evolution. It's a symbol of the evolution of the combination of spirit and form. It reminds us always that spirit will emerge through the physical, through our self-imposed limitations, through what we think is possible, and it will crash through and it will transform us if we allow it to. So we die to the old. We cross out those behaviors, right? We hang them on the cross. All of those false ideas, all of those beliefs that no longer serve us. We die to them and we rise to a higher level of who we are in spirit. And Ernest Holmes said this. He said, "Today the horizon is clear. The voyage starts anew. We are new. The true resurrection is not from this life into the next. It takes place daily and hourly as we shed the limited concepts of life and come into the vineyard to gather the fruit of spirit, hanging rich from the vines of God. A person may be remade, renewed in mind and body, just through taking a little time to get acquainted with the better self. just through coming to recognize the invisible and almost unknown guest who accompanies everyone through life, the spiritual presence within. It's about becoming familiar with that higher self that lives within all of us. And that's what the Easter story is about. The Easter story is engaging us at a higher level. It's calling us to be better and better people, isn't it? It is that spiritual mastery which we are on the path to unfolding. And we don't get there by praying 5 minutes in the morning and then running around the rest of the day mired in the level of the condition and complaining about it. We get there by holding the high watch all the time in our own lives, by constantly going to the higher thought. It requires not only commitment, but active practice. Active practice. And really understanding what those spiritual masters have shared with us. So in the book, the 7 Living Words, the first word, of course, is forgiveness. Breathe, breathe. I know, coming on surrender, and now having to talk about forgiveness, it's like, God, people are going to run screaming from the room. But really, forgiveness is an integral part of it, and it comes from, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, right? That was one of the quotes, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgiveness is our active practice. It's the one thing that we do over and over and over and over and over again. So what are we putting on the cross? What are we crossing out? We're putting our condemnation, we're putting our judgment, we're hanging those things on the cross so that we can practice forgiveness, active forgiveness. And that 70 times 7 thing, which really meant as long as it takes. It wasn't actually, well, when I get to 70, then I'm done, or 70 times 7, thank God it's over. No, all that meant was until we see as God sees. Until we see as God sees. That's how many times. It's infinity. It's whatever it is. We continue to practice forgiveness. The second word is today. Today. And I love that because today is all we have. And the quote was, as in today, you will be with me in paradise. Today you will be with me in paradise. Because today is all we have, right? We talked about that last month when we talked about mindfulness. There's only the now. So today you are in heaven or hell, depending on your consciousness. Today you are in paradise or you aren't, depending on your consciousness. Today is all we have. We have the moment. We must surrender to it and be completely in it, regardless of the conditions. The third word is oneness. From John 19:26. Behold your son, behold your mother. There was oneness happening there. Jesus spoke to his disciple and he spoke to his mother and he said, there's only one. There's only one. You're his mother, you're my mother. We are all one. There is no separation. There is only one life. This life is God's life. This life is perfect. This life is our life right here and right now. So that oneness is all we have. That oneness is spirit living life as us. There truly is no separation. There is only one energy. It is living its life as us. But we have to remember that it's only one. It's only one. Jesus' disciple and his mother, practicing oneness, just as Jesus practiced it with his disciples and his mother. The fourth living word, truth. Truth. Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me? And how many times do we feel like that? How many times when we have felt ourselves judged or condemned or alone or abandoned or betrayed? How many times have we felt like that? How many times have we been the betrayer? How many times do we feel like we're outside of God's love or outside of the presence of Spirit? And in reality, Jesus was referring to Psalms 22. And Psalms 22 begins with that line. My God, why have you forsaken me? And if you read Psalms 22, it goes on to say, God never forsakes us. God is present everywhere, every moment of every day. And so really, he wasn't judging God. He wasn't angry with God. He was reminding himself he's never alone. Never alone. It is just the first line, and many of the practicing Jews of that day did that. They would read the first line. They would recite the first line in their minds to remind them of the whole Psalms, whichever Psalms it was. So that was the beginning, and go home and read it. You can look it up. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of poetry. And it's about reminding ourselves that Spirit is never away from us. It's never apart from us in any way. It can't be. Because the energy which is God is the energy that beats our heart and breathes our breath. There is no separation. It is only the truth of us that we are spirit in form. So the fifth living word. The fifth living word I hope you're familiar with. It's vision. It's vision. And in John 19:28, Jesus said, I thirst. I thirst. And because we're always connected with vision, we are always connected with the living waters. We are always connected with the source of our inspiration. We are always able to be in alignment with the truth of our nature, with that spirit that we are living through us and as us. We have everything within us, from abundance to wisdom, all of those qualities. We have everything within us to realize our dreams and to be in alignment with principle. You know, our desires are our messengers. We just need to get them into alignment, into right relationship with principle. And then we have flow. Did you ever find those times in your life when just everything flows, right? Where you've prayed, you're prayed up, you've meditated, and you've set a goal in mind, and things just unfold. And you think, oh my gosh, coincidence and serendipity and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, that's Spirit just working through us because our desires are in alignment with principle. And life just flows. Spirit does the work. Spirit does the work, and that is the vision, right? It's such a powerful thing when our desires and our intentions are in alignment with Spirit, that things do flow. Remember, Michael Beckwith had said at one time that pain pushes us until the vision pulls us, right? When we are in alignment, we don't need the pain anymore. We don't need the pain. The vision is so powerful. The vision pulls us. And that's what this is about. It's about having that vision, not having to be pushed by the pain any longer, but being pulled because your vision for your life is so powerful. It is irresistible. And that spirit is moving through you and actually doing the work for you. The sixth living word is completion. Completion. In John 19:30, Jesus said, "It is finished." When we are completely aligned with Spirit's idea for us, we can move mountains, right? Have you noticed that things just fall away when we are in alignment with Spirit's idea for us? Life just happens. And Mark Anthony Lord, in his book, he says this: "Here's the spiritual truth about completion. That which you have put on the cross to be crossed out is absolutely done. Our prayers are answered. There is no space and time in God. There is only now, remember? Therefore, your prayers are fulfilled in the mind of God now. Signed, sealed, and delivered now. And that which you have crossed out is complete." You're done with it. You're done with it. That's completion. You have let go of the things that you've been dragging around with you. You've absolutely released the false beliefs and the fears and the ideas that you're less than really who you truly are. And you've come fully present into the now, into that spiritual self that you know yourself to be. And the seventh word, which brings us all the way back to the beginning, the seventh word is surrender. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Luke 23:46. The story of Jesus' ministry was one of surrender and faith and unconditional love. So we've come here to surrender the small self, to begin living that life of spirit and form that God knows us to be. We've accepted our cup. We have accepted our cup. We've accepted the truth of ourselves. We've finished with that no longer serves us. We've taken on forgiveness as a daily practice. As a daily practice, sometimes minutely practice. Sometimes, and as soon as somebody comes into your head, that's like, you have to practice, right? You have to continue to practice forgiveness. What is it? Until that person has safe passage through your mind. Until that person has safe passage through your mind. That can be, that can transform in a minute. It can transform in a lifetime. It doesn't matter. There's no time in God. We practice forgiveness every single day. We release any ideas of separation. We renew our idea or our vision for our life. Now is the time to let go and let God move us forward as we come into alignment with the vision for our lives. Spirit moves us forward. So we started with surrender. It's just only proper, isn't it, that we should end up in surrender. Giving way for a greater idea of who we are. That's what the Easter story is about. It is about getting rid of the false ideas and surrendering to this greater idea, as scary as it can be. Allow the dying to the old, making way for the transcendent self to emerge through the physical. Ernest Holmes said this. He said, "To practice the presence of God is to awaken within us the Christ consciousness. Christ is God in the soul of humanity. The resurrection is the death of the belief that we are separate from God. For death is to the illusion alone and not to the reality." So today we surrender that. We surrender the small self in love for the greater idea of who we are. We are spirit. We're simply 100% spirit. We are occupying a body for a certain amount of time. Who knows how long that will be? Life itself is a terminal condition, right? So we're occupying this body, but we are 100% spirit. We die to the old, outdated ideas every day. It doesn't take Easter to do it. We die to the old ideas every day. We hang the false beliefs on the cross. We are done with them. We cross them out. We retreat into the tomb, into the quiet, into the dark, to come into alignment with our ideas, our vision, our goals, our desires. And as we become aligned with them, we emerge this new self. We emerge the greater idea of ourselves, the greater idea of our individuality. We become more of who Spirit knows us to be than ever before. We are reborn into a new life as Spirit in form at a higher level. Ernest Holmes said this: we should resurrect ourselves to the joy and simplicity and spontaneity of life, and leave the corpse of our dead yesterdays in the tomb of their own obscurity. We should live more abundantly in God this day and from now on. And when we come out of our tomb of ignorance and darkness and disbelief, how glorious shall be the dawn. Happy Easter.